now our next talk is going to be by Alice Thudt. And her first job was a PhD in computational media design. Good first job. Good way to start with a PhD. And she hopes that her last job is going to be about making data more accessible to the general public, so she's well on her way. It's interesting because we already had like 2 or 3 mentions, I think, of data today, and again, I think we're going to talk about it, as you all fascinated by the Chris. We're with you. Go.
Okay, hi. Thanks for the introduction. I'm Alice Thudt, and today I will talk about a study we did on self-reflection and physicalization construction. So we're getting analog, I guess. And this is work I did together with Uta Hinrichs, Samuel Huron, and Sheila Carpenter. So physical visualizations, or physicalizations for short, have been used for personal reflection actually for millennia. So early examples that you can see here include lunar markings on prehistoric bones and tallies of personal accomplishments. And some people still use this practice or similar things today. So for example, the Lego visualization there over on the right by Michael Hunger, he used that to track work hours on different projects. In 2014, we devised constructive visualization as a paradigm for creating visualizations by assembling simple tokens that represent data, so similar to the ones you can see here. And in this study that I'm talking about today, we wanted to understand how people use this approach to create personal visualizations, and we were also interested in how this process facilitates reflection. So in our study, we had 9 participants who were all not experts in visualization, and we provided these participants with a kit of different physical materials. Over there you can see them. And during the studies, these participants used these materials to construct visualizations about a topic of their own choosing at home for 2 to 4 weeks. To familiarize participants with this process, we ran a group workshop where they could try the activity first. And after this, we asked them to develop a plan of what they were interested in exploring. And then we talked to them about this in pre-interviews. And then they constructed their visualizations at home over the course of 2 to 4 weeks, as I said. And they captured also their process and reflections in diaries. And last, we ran interviews in people's homes where we covered their process and what they found through this activity. So to get right to the results, here you can see an overview of all the physicalizations that our participants created. And this already shows kind of that the process allowed them to create quite diverse representations and also to explore very different topics. And the visualizations also show quite a few different form factors. So you can have some wearable, decorative, or embedded visualizations here. In our analysis, we were interested also to understand how did people make these. And so all participants started their process with a design phase where they basically decided which data attributes about their topic to log and how to map this data to the characteristics of the materials. And after this, participants started to continually construct their data. So whenever a relevant experience occurred, they went through a series of steps. Some started the process by logging their data separately from the visualization, so digitally or on paper. And the others directly manifested their experiences physically. So this happened by preparing tokens, for example, by counting or arranging them, and then integrated them into the physicalization. And this process is kind of interesting because only 3 participants logged their data separately. So all the others didn't really have a data set, but instead made their experiences physical right away. And this differs from how we usually think about visualization processes, And also, when we think of self-tracking, usually data entry is treated separately from visual overviews that the app would provide. Participants also reported quite diverse reflections from this activity, and this included insights directly derived from the data, for example, trends or correlations, interpretations of the data in the light of their personal context, reflections on their actions, which allowed participants to develop motivation and actionable strategies, and also contemplations of their character, values, and attitudes. And in particular, the last two types included quite deep self-reflection. So I will give you some examples of these two in particular. So participant 5, who was visualizing data about her level of focus during writing, for example, stated, I changed my writing process a lot thanks to this visualization. I realized that working in longer sessions was more beneficial for my writing process. I could have these longer threads with no beats, which was representing times where she was not distracted. And as I said, participants also often related findings from the visualizations to their own value system. And for instance, participant 6 here explored enjoyment of different activities. And in the interview, she showed me small red beads in the visualizations and explained to me that these stood for times with her friends that she didn't enjoy. She reflected on this and said, but it's good that I did it because we haven't talked in so long, so it's good that I spent that time cultivating the relationship. Or participant 5 explained how the physicalization activity changed her attitude towards her ways of working. So she said, be a little bit more compassionate about your writing, but not too much. Finding that balance was a good discovery and not feeling guilty. You should not be so strict in evaluating what is success. So it is also interesting to note that these self-reflections that participants reported were deeply intertwined with the all steps of physical construction. So they basically happened while people were making the visualizations rather than passively sort of looking at them after. We further analyzed what aspects of the physicalization construction participants experienced as beneficial, but also as challenging for reflection. First, we found that the personal involvement in both the design and construction seems to support the internalization of gained insights. So for example, participant 4 stated, on digital apps, I really rely on the app's analysis versus my own. Whereas in this physicalization, I felt like I was starting to have an intuitive understanding because I built it myself. The physicality of this process made it enjoyable for participants, but they also found that qualitative aspects of their experiences were easier to represent directly. So for instance, participant 7, who visualized his meditation quality, explains how his process worked. So he says, I take one piece of plasticine, start to roll a ball, and then you can look at the ball and be like, does this feel right? And then add and subtract more. So this really shows how participants directly visualize their experiences without separate data logging. But the physicality also posed some challenges, such as the physical constraints sometimes getting in the way of accurate representation. So this is kind of a challenge. Manual effort also helped internalizing the understanding gained from the data, and also the slow process that this technique refers created opportunities for reflection and also a sense of attachment to the visualization. So for example, participant 6 said, digital logging is practical just to see what happened, but with this you invest so much time and energy thinking about it, so it has more value. However, while the created representations can theoretically be interactively explored by moving the tokens around, our participants found that this was too much effort, and only one participant actually used the tokens in an exploratory way. The presence of the objects in everyday life supported serendipitous encounters, reflections, and social interactions. So for example, participant 3, who visualized her mood, said, I think for my husband it was also fun to follow it. We could just talk about it without actually thinking about talking about it. It's just something that happened because it was there. So from our analysis, we proposed several considerations for the design of both digital and physical visualization tools for self-reflection. First, we proposed to explore visualizations as a means for direct data input. This means, for instance, you could sketch new data points into a representation or manipulate aspects of the visual marks in order to input data. And another interesting avenue for future research is using visualizations as generative tools, for example, to plan future activities, which one of our participants did. In our study, we provided guidance to participants in form of our introductory workshop, but in the future, it would be interesting to explore ways to integrate instructions into standalone personal data construction kits or apps. Last, the large variety of materials we provided in the kit gave participants expressive freedom, but also caused problems in the readability of some of the physicalizations. So it would be interesting to explore if there's a sweet spot between expressive freedom and meaningful constraints. And with this, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you for coming.
Est-ce qu'on a des questions pour Alice? Vous allez aller voir son paper vous aussi en ligne. Alors, merci beaucoup, Alice, pour ton temps avec nous. Ça a été vraiment intéressant. Je pense que toutes nos présentations aujourd'hui, on peut s'entendre. Hein, c'était vraiment super de les avoir avec nous. On va juste clore ça pendant 3 minutes ici avec vous. Je suis sûr que tout le monde a hâte d'aller payer sa bière de côté de la rue. On veut l'avoir gratuit ici. Première étape, on en a plus besoin. Chris, si tu veux venir nous parler de Magdi, que tu connais bien, qui est notre commanditaire principal chez la communauté. Ouais.
Bon, ben voilà, je travaille à m'appeler, donc je leur ai demandé est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner plein d'argent. Là, on est riche. Alors, donc, on va payer la pizza, des fois c'est la salle, des choses comme ça. Donc, un gros merci à m'appeler. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait chez MapD? Ben oui, c'est vrai, la visualisation. Donc, MapD, c'est un logiciel pour analyser de façon visuelle des grands ensembles de données. On a toujours besoin de gens pour nous aider, donc si vous programmez, si vous êtes designer d'outils de visualisation, c'est vraiment ce qu'on fait. Ce qui est intéressant, c'est que ça roule sur le GPU, donc c'est vraiment une technologie qui permet de visualiser de façon très interactive des grands ensembles de données. Moi, ça m'intéresse beaucoup. Je travaille ici à partir de Montréal, donc si on trouve des gens à Montréal, on pourrait se trouver un petit bureau, on pourrait se voir, puis ça permet de bénéficier de tous les avantages de la Silicon Valley. Chez vous.
Ok, super. Merci beaucoup. Ça ici, c'est où on va aller prendre un verre. Après, sur la carte, vous voyez, on est ici. Vous êtes rentré par le coin. Vous avez simplement qu'à descendre jusqu'à la rue Sainte-Catherine. Et là, vous allez voir ce bar ici qui est à 150 mètres. Donc, c'est vraiment très près. Et en continuant, j'aimerais inviter quelqu'un ici en avant. Ah, s'il y en a d'autres qui veulent être au commentaire, on a de la place encore. On a encore de la place dans notre fond de banque. C'est la bonne nouvelle. Comme je vous ai dit, vous avez des annonces. On a des annonces si vous voulez faire des annonces, on vous donne le temps. Mais il y a une personne que j'aimerais inviter en avant, et c'est Mathieu, ici, qui va venir jusqu'avec nous ici. Parce que sans Mathieu, Meetup aujourd'hui n'aurait pas eu lieu. C'est Mathieu qui nous a contactés en premier, qui nous a aidé à sélectionner les conférenciers et qui a envoyé la première invitation. So Mathieu is the one that made it happen today because he thought of contacting us in the first place. And all the speakers know that the first email they got was from Mathieu. This is how we lured them in. So we're going to do something special we've never done before. We're going to make you an honorary member of Visualization. Is there anyone else who wants to make an announcement? I think we had at least one person. Yes.
Hi, I'm Audrey from Function. So Function is looking for a front-end developer, intermediate to senior. So what do? We are an information design company. We work with big nonprofits or big companies like Google or 3M to create digital storytelling experiences and data-driven applications. We are B Corp certified. We are a small team of designers, developers, and a dog. And so if you're interested in joining us, please check out Function. I think Francis posted the ad on Twitter. So otherwise, I'll see you at Dog Fest.
Thank you. Anyone else with an announcement? Yes.
Do you want to announce the co-op-a-thon here that we're having here with VisMTL? So for those that are local residents here, we have a co-op-a-thon for 2018. It's a very big thing here. It's an international co-op-a-thon. It's happening in conjunction with Desjardins Lab. They were having the first info session tonight, but they're having the second one on the end of May. If you want to look in that, they've added another department. They've added an environmental department so that you can put your projects online with them.
So what do you look for if you Google it?
Cooperathon218.com.
Coopératon2018.com. Super, merci. Est-ce qu'il y avait d'autres annonces avant qu'on fasse nos deux dernières? Vous savez où on va faire Là, j'espère que vous êtes tous au courant que ce soir, en fait, c'était comme la veille de Noël. Hein? C'est pour ça qu'on s'est réunis ce soir, ou la Saint-Sylvestre, parce que demain, c'est le premier International Chart Day de 26 avril. C'est vrai, ça a été créé. Alberto Caro est là-dedans aussi, mais je pense que c'est lancé aux États-Unis. Mais surveillez votre fil Twitter, Facebook, etc. Vous allez voir énormément d'actions autour de International Chart Day. Ça existe pour de vrai. Et la dernière chose, on peut annoncer notre prochain meet-up qui sera le 31 mai à WeWork à propos de Database and UX, l'expérience usagée et la visualisation. On a déjà des conférenciers. Est-ce que, Santiago, on a une confirmation de tu sais qui pour la date?
Je te confirme après, mais
Après,
presque,
on
oui.
ne peut pas le dire encore.
Non, c'est une surprise.
On ne peut pas le dire encore, mais on a des invités internationaux encore qui vont venir nous parler de Database and UX. And this is it. You're free to come with us. Actually, those who want to go for the drinks, Jessica in the corner there with the hands is going to leave right now with the first bunch. And as we finish cleaning the room, we're going to leave with whoever is here. Thank you for coming.